Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this one, we'll just be going over some of the newly updated placements of healers from our previous tier list. If you don't know or are unaware, there were some changes introduced on Wednesday if you were on EU and Tuesday if you were on NA. That kind of has shaken up the meta just a little bit. And obviously, I'll just be going over what I think will perform better, the same, and maybe slightly worse than it used to. But honestly, I would say most of the healers in this current meta are around the same level for the most part. But with that being said, let's get right into this one. So first up, we've got Restoration Druid. Now this spec, you've been performing really well throughout the expansion. To be honest, you have been hit with a few nerfs here and there. You did get nerfed on Wednesday or Tuesday, and I think you are expecting some more nerfs coming up in the next patch. But on the bright side, you guys are still doing what you do so well, which is just maintaining and keeping your team up, and keeping them aggressive throughout the game and sneaking away for those drinks when you see fit. That really does enable druids to really get their team and keep them going for extended periods of time, getting them into that late dampening, which most other healers do not have the capability of doing. And obviously, you do have a lot of cooldowns and utility to kind of help your team stay offensive, and obviously trade for yourself if you do find yourself in trouble. So with that being said, I believe Resto Druid is a solid A tier. Moving on to Preservation Evoker. Now, Preservation Evoker, you were nerfed a little bit as well as Druid, and I don't think you're expecting any more nerfs, which is always a good thing to hear. You do have a little bit of that annoying side of your class where you can put up Nullifying Shroud, and if you're good, you can kind of avoid that getting purged by the plethora of disc priests that are currently plaguing the ladder at the moment. And we'll get into that one pretty soon. Um, yes, so you do have a bit of utility with that Nullifying Shroud. You also got a buff to your Emerald Communion where you can channel it throughout any CC, whether you're polyed, whether you're blinded, it doesn't matter. You can channel that through and make sure that your team is healthy and topped in any form or sort of CC, which is absolutely fantastic for your class. You are still a little bit squishy, but honestly, I haven't seen too many teams be able to punish evokers that bad, except obviously if you watch AWC, there is a thug cleave with Big Max, Rat, and Zenlin, and they have been showing that they could really punish and make these evokers really pay for their mistakes, catching them without trinket and whatnot, and to just absolutely smoke them. So but I still think overall Evoker is one of the best healers currently, still at the moment. So I think though, I think it is better than Druid, um, generally speaking, just because they have a bit more healing throughput, not quite as maybe long, like longevity orientated, but I think that they do have the healing throughput to make them a bit higher than Druid at the moment. Moving on to Mistweaver Monk. Now, if you've played the game for at least an hour or two in the past couple weeks, you would have noticed that every single Mistweaver Monk is playing the Fist Weaving build, and this is for a reason. It's because it does tremendous amounts of damage. I've seen Mistweavers out damaging their own DPS by quite a margin too. It's not been by maybe like 10k or 20k. It's been by a couple hundred sometimes. And also, while they're doing damage, they're able to heal their party and their allies. The only problem I have with this, unfortunately, is that um, the healing that you get from fist weaving does not prioritize your lowest ally. It does unfortunately heal at random. So maybe that gets addressed and maybe that gets fixed later down the line. And I think fist weaving would be pretty insane. I think a lot among that, you have a very short cocoon cooldown. You have I think instant enveloping mist coming soon as well. So Mistweaver Monk is looking to be quite the spec once these changes do land. But as of right now, I still think it's a bit lacking behind in the B tier. But that doesn't say that the spec is bad. It's just not as good as Evoker and Druid, in my opinion. Um, Moving on to Holy Pally. Now, this spec also got nerfed recently to its melee wings, and it did feel that quite a bit, I believe. I have not really seen many Holy Pallies out there since these changes, and honestly, the ones that I spoke to have given me a bit of feedback saying that the spec it does struggle. But overall, you have some nice burst healing at times. It may not be as consistent, sorry, as you like. Um, but I think you can make up for that maybe by bringing a lot of utility to your team in form of blessing of protection, blessing of sacrifice, hand of freedom, to help your team stay mobile, either to stay on a target or kite away from danger. But I would say Holy Paladin all around is pretty solid. I would say maybe not on par with Rested Druid and Evoker, as these guys are really built to kind of endure the longer game. And Pally, I just can't see it really competing with these guys. So I want to say that it belongs in the B tier. I would say better than Mistweaver at the moment. Um, Moving on to Discipline Priest. Now, this is the spec that everyone seems to be playing at the moment. Even if then they've been a DPS main, a caster melee, it doesn't matter. I've seen people like Peekaboo, you've probably seen him pick up a Disc Priest, and I think I can't remember what rating he's at, but he's doing pretty well with it in solo shuffle at the moment. It does a lot of damage. It heals by doing this damage as well, and it does a lot of that damage. I can't believe that I'm seeing it, that this priest are out damaging people and then whispering them afterwards. How do you let a disc priest out damage you? And it's like, bro, you're literally like a DH from range. It's crazy. They're doing crazy amounts of damage. They now have two PSs. They have a very good toolkit to rotate through on a defensive basis to kind of help their team and themselves stay aggressive, which is honestly, as a disc priest, what you want. The game cannot go very long before a disc priest is just runs out of steam, not out of cooldowns, but out of mana. Mana seems to be the kind of limiting factor for the spec. As the game kind of goes on, obviously they don't really have any dead globals. They're literally always doing something. So that mana bar is just creeping down as the game goes on, and once you're you can't really do much. So I would say all around though, this priest is looking really good. They can really end those games before it even gets to a point where they're So just based on that, I think this priest is easy S tier. Um, Moving on to its counterpart, Holy Priest. Now, Holy Priest has been seeing some representation in the AWC. Zenlin has been really repping this one, and honestly, it when he plays it, it looks insane. It looks like it can literally do everything. It can CC. It can do a little bit of damage. It can really heal through some burst windows of opposing teams. But unfortunately, I feel like it runs out of that healing throughput before other healers. So other healers can outlast Holy Priest in terms of like how many cooldowns they have to trade to keep their team alive and offensive before they reach that point later than Holy Priest, unfortunately. Holy Priest still can put out a tremendous amount of healing with Guardian, with Pit of Serenity. A lot of priests are playing Ray of Hope to kind of help with some of these cleaves and burst damage. With the popularity of Destro locks, that's seeing a bit more value too. I just think all around Holy feels it's okay. It's definitely not the best, but it's definitely not the worst either. So just based on that, I think that it's gonna be us in the B tier with Holy Pally and Mistweaver Monk. Where to put it though is the question. I want to say below Holy Pally, just because Holy Pally brings so much utility to the team, with bops, freedoms, and sacrifices and whatnot. Um, and that can really help lay them over for a little bit longer. Um, but let me know if you agree with that or not. I'm not too sure. And then finally, we have Resto Shaman. Now, Resto Shaman, I think you did receive some buffs to your casted heals and a bit of nerf to your instant healing, which was honestly justified. You guys did a lot of passive just riptiding in from max range and kind of keeping your team alive. And I think Blizzard just kind of said, you know what, let's kind of slow that down and reward you from casting a little bit more, which honestly, I'm on the fence about, because in this meta, how bursty things are, it's like you barely have time to cast. But at the same time, I feel like the meta should be that way, where it does reward you casting and maybe faking a cast. But as I said, the meta is just, there's so much damage right now, so much raw damage, that is just really does feel hard, that when you fall behind, that you can't really cast to recover. You kind of just fall even further behind, just because you may get kicked, you may get micro CC gripped, stunned, incapped, just gouged on a heal that you almost completed, and that can just spell disaster for you and your team. But I would say all around, Arsham does have a solid kit with sheer, grounding, elemental if they choose to play it, roots, shears. They feel like they're quite versatile, and they can help their team be quite disruptive. Um, and obviously you do have two, I don't think you have two spirit links, unfortunately. I'm not too sure, but I think on the actual healing side, you guys are doing pretty well. Healing tide got a buff, your healing stream got a buff. So honestly, just based on healing throughput and how versatile the spec can be, I would say I would put Arsham in the A tier. Definitely not as good as Preservation or Druid though. um and yeah, that will bring the tier list to an end. I would say, honestly, the gap between the healers is closing off. It does just take a little bit of just something to kind of close that gap and make everyone quite on par with each other. But don't let this discourage you, as obviously there are clear differences in capabilities. But once spec is played well, I feel like um the limit is the sky, really. Just watching, for example, AWC today, you're seeing, actually, before that does not bring the tier list to an end. I lied. Just a notable mention, by the way. A notable mention is to keep an eye on is Brewmaster Monk. Brewmaster Monk, just from the games that I've watched today on AWC Friday, with, I can't remember what the team's name is, unfortunately, but it's Bruisin, Blizzo, I think, and Banks. And that team has surprised me quite a lot. They took down Swapsy. I can't remember what the team name is and who's in it, unfortunately. But I watched a Mistweaver, uh, uh, a Brewmaster, and a Arms Warrior take down a Lock Ellie Druid, I think it was. And that surprised me quite a lot. I've never seen a melee cleave, so maybe not comfortably, but it was quite convincing how they performed. So I would honestly kind of keep an eye out for this spec. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what your opinions are on the list, where you think things may have to go up or down, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.